I wish I knew how many are being helped, but I know how many need help.
Right.
So anybody who's going to be examined and found to have a visual dysfunction, you're looking at about 1 in 4. 25% are going to have something going wrong with their visual system that requires an evaluation. The biggest problem that I have found as an optometrist of COVD is that my colleagues do excellent evaluations. They're looking to see, can they see 20/20? Wonderful. Yes, right eye sees 20/20, left eye sees 20/20. But we don't see with a right eye and a left eye, we see with a right and left together. And that third eye that we don't really have, that's up here, our cyclopean eye, doesn't necessarily work all the time. And my colleagues don't test for that. So they'll give you a prescription for this eye that sees 20/20. They'll give you a prescription for this eye that sees 20/20. And off you go with a new pair of glasses. And that's a problem. And the other thing is, my colleagues are fabulous at eye health. I mean, the things that we can do nowadays as optometrists, is incredible. We can really serve the population of individuals because there's not enough ophthalmologists out there that do pediatrics per se. In the population here in South Florida, in the Miami area, I believe I once did a little flyer, and it's one pediatric ophthalmologist for every several thousand kids.
Wow.
It's
Okay.
just not enough. You need more other people, other individuals. Now, mind you, it's probably about 5 years ago since I did that. I'd probably have to redo the numbers because there've been a lot of graduates that have gotten interested in pediatrics. So there are more now than there were a few years back. But that's where the optometrists really needed to shine. We needed to help to be able to fill the gap and be able to examine those children. Or else, if you call right now at Miami Children's Hospital to get an appointment, you're going to be waiting months,
Wow.
which is
Okay.
unfortunate.
Right.
So that's
Right.
where a lot of my colleagues can fill that thing. But if they don't recognize that it's not just about eyesight and eye health, but about how the eyes function, or when they're not functioning, how they're interfering with how a person lives their life. And so that's where Sue's corporation comes in, her non-for-profit, is that she has recognized that children are in school, and in the schools, they are having difficulty processing information through several of the senses, the auditory system and the visual system. So when they're processing things incorrectly, the outcome is garbage. So, if you have a machine, my dad used to have a machine shop in Hialeah, and he'd have this raw material that goes in, and then it would process it, and out the other end came this beautiful plastic bottle. And so, but every once in a while, me would try to help them. And I cleaned up all the pieces of plastic that had fallen around the container that was going into the machine. And I picked up all the dirt and all the glass and all the grass that was in there, and I dumped it in. I ruined their material. The whole barrel was ruined because of me. When
Oh,
you ruin what goes in, even if the processing instrumentation is perfect, you're still going to have a bad outcome.
yes, exactly right.
And
Exactly
that's
right.
where auditory and vision, being the two major senses, if you ever have a kid or an adult who touches everything, they come in, they look, I'm like, oh, what a beautiful water bottle. They can't just look at it from far away and see it. They have to touch it to understand it. They've got a visual dysfunction in terms of how they process information. They have to add another sense, touch, or they have to hear it make noise, sound, in order to have a better understanding. If you have a baby and that baby goes from rocking like this, looking like they're going to start crawling, and then all of a sudden they start cruising the furniture and standing up, right there is a sign that something's going wrong with the visual system. Because in crawling, the posture that a person assumes, so imagine you're on your hands and knees, and you have to lift up your head to look where you're going so that your eyes are looking like this, down and in a little bit. Now, if your eyes don't go down and in, you might, as a baby, see two images. We don't know. We can't ask them. Too young. We're talking about 7 or 8 months old here, so we can't exactly ask what they're seeing.
Hmm.
But so what we see is the behavior. They stand up to cruise because that keeps their eyes in the straight ahead position. So one of the first signs that something's not right is that. So let's fast forward a little bit, and we have the toddler. You have a toddler who is hiding behind mom's skirts? who's constantly not letting go and has fear, who will stay there and look, just barely look around and is constantly trying to be held by parents. That too can be a visual dysfunction when they're looking at a new situation and they can't assess it for danger. When the visual system is giving misinformation and they're not processing that information appropriately, they may construe all situations or all situations as being threatening. Therefore, that's a visual information processing error. Right there, it's telling you that they're processing a simple situation. It's okay. We're going in. We're going to meet the family. Here's grandma and grandpa, and here's all the people you know. But if their visual system is not tuned in appropriately, their brain's going to go, "You're in danger. You're in danger. This is a new situation,"
Oh,
and
wow.
they're going to act that way. So that's the toddler. Now you have the one that's running around, that's going into kindergarten, and I just described it. The one that has to touch everything. If a child has got to use their hands to have an understanding of their world, first of all, they have to get up to it to touch it. The visual system is our way of touching the world without the use of our hands. It's for our brain to reach out, gather information, get it back. And essentially, what are we doing with our senses? We are telling our brain that things are great, that things are good, that things are dangerous, that things are horrible, that you're about to be eaten by a Tyrannosaurus Rex, those kind of things. That's what it's for.
Hmm.
That's what the senses are for. So when the senses come in, how it's processed is going to be processed incorrectly. And then you go into school age and older, and all of a sudden they're misconstruing situations or information. And it's all coming in. So it could be coming in perfectly crystal clear, or it could be coming in perfectly crystal clear from this eye, but not from this eye. So this eye turns off and goes off to the side, or has a love affair with the nose, crossing in like that.
Right.
And that's another sign. Obviously, if the eyes are not straight ahead and looking at you, and a child looks like they're looking through you, you definitely know something's not right. Here's another one. Play catch. Play catch with the ball. The child that goes and puts their hands up and the ball hits the back of their hand is misunderstanding their visual spatial world. They believe that ball was already here, so they closed their hands and it hit later. So the ball was further away than they thought it was. It's a misunderstanding of visual space. That's another sign. Or the child that you throw the ball, it hits them in the chest, and then they go to catch it like this, right here. So it hits them and they go like that. They thought the ball was further away than it actually is. Really dangerous if you're driving when you think something's further away than it actually is,
Right.
because you could be driving along thinking the car in front of you is far away, and boom, no, they're not. You just met the driver of the next car in front of you. It
Hmm.
happens.
Hmm.
It's a misunderstanding of visual space, and that can happen in adults as well. You have a lot of individuals who have brain injuries, per se, and they don't perceive the visual spatial world the same way ever again, and it has to be relearned according to their new brain. I think some of my favorite ones are the individual that can't sit still in their chair,
Uh-huh.
that they're constantly rejiggling themselves. They got the ants in the pants syndrome, or they're standing up, sitting down, moving over, laying down, or they're covering one eye, or they've got their hair in front of one eye as they're writing, tilting the head, getting really close, or moving further away. There's a lot that the teacher will see. Essentially, if they're not everybody else, because when the system is, you sort of, you kind of know when you've got a classroom filled with children and all the children are able to sit for 10 minutes and learn, and you got two that absolutely cannot, something's going on.
Hmm.
And one of the systems that will give you a lot of information is the visual system. Unfortunately, most of those kids are sent to the psychologist first, or if they have a speech impediment, they're sent to the speech pathologist first. And what they need is a hearing evaluation and a visual evaluation, and not just eyesight and eye health, but eye function.
Hmm.
So, how we're functioning and how we are getting our eyes to guide us through the world is
Hmm.
important to figure out. Once you've got that, then you can go, oh, yeah, no, the visual system's perfect. Audiology, how are they? Audiology good? Okay, send them to the psychologist. And so, what Bright Minds is trying to do now is make that awareness at the state level, and it's because of her that that's happening,
Yes.
so that we can have new rules so that we can have therapy, or at least the recognition that vision therapy is going to alter the performance in the classroom because these visual dysfunctions are disabling, and because of that they need to be addressed and recognized and then addressed in the school system or outside of the school system.